pledge allegiance to the flag
We are taking back the Capitol right now.
Of the United States of America.
Yo, take laptops, paperwork, take everything.
And to the republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God.
indivisible,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
We can't save her. Get the back.
with liberty and justice for all.
On January the 6th, 2021, a protest driven by false claims of a stolen presidential election led to an unprecedented attack on the seat of our democracy. Police officers were brutally assaulted by their fellow Americans. Law enforcement outnumbered and outflanked on all sides as they fought to defend the U.S. Capitol. The extent of the damage to our nation and our democracy may not be fully known for years, but using hours of never-before-seen videos obtained by WUSA 9 through a legal challenge and new interviews with those who were here that day, one thing is clear. We are a democracy divided, and these are the stories of the Capitol riot.
That morning before I came in, a reporter texted me and asked if I was worried.
Capitol Hill staffer Sharon Nichols was working from home January 6th, but she needed to make one quick trip into the office. It was the essential workers' turn to get her first COVID-19 vaccination.
I thought that coming into the Capitol would be the safest place.
But as she made the short walk across the Capitol grounds to the vaccination clinic inside the Rayburn House Office building, she realized something wasn't right.
All right, we're still trying to make our way to the front doors. Like I said, haven't seen any violence, folks, thank God. I want everybody out here to be safe. Nobody needs to get hurt.
And I could hear Capitol police officers kind of in distress, yelling at each other back and forth. Send help over here, or this crowd is big, or we need backup at that location.
I don't think the cops know what to do. This is the first time they've seen a peaceful protest succeed.
When I went to the Rayburn Health Unit, which is where they were giving vaccinations, there was a Capitol police officer outside there who told me I should probably go home. He said, listen, things are gonna get bad today.
We're going, this is a peaceful, well, doesn't seem very peaceful.
But we'd come off of a year of this pandemic that had killed hundreds of thousands of people already, and there was finally light at the end of the tunnel to get a vaccination. So I told him that, like, this is my first vaccination shot. Shouldn't I just go in and get it? And he said, yeah, since you're already here, go ahead in and get it, and then you should probably leave.
Before Sharon could leave that clinic, U.S. Capitol Police sent out its first alert.
But I gotta be honest, this is not a peaceful protest.
They were locking down all Capitol office buildings, including the one where Sharon was getting her shot. No one allowed in or out.
And they sent me back to my office and said, yeah, we probably aren't going to be able to leave this place for a while.
You just stole a riot shield? Yeah. Wow.
I didn't know how ugly it would get by then, though.
While Sharon Nichols was rushing for cover inside her office, Ronnie Sandlin, Nate DeGrave, and Josiah Colt were having lunch.
Yeah, so we're at TGI Fridays right now.
The three had met on Facebook. DeGrave traveling from his home in Las Vegas, Colt from Idaho, both to meet Sandlin in Tennessee so they could all drive to D.C. together for Donald Trump's Stop the Steal rally. Sandlin, the organizer of the trip according to court records, had once built a successful internet marketing company. But Sandlin lost his business and his way during COVID, according to court documents, turning his focus to the presidential election and calls to reverse Donald Trump's loss. But only after he grabbed a bite and a beer.
Because I'm so sick and tired of people saying they believe in something and they're not willing to stand up and fight for what they believe in. Yes, please. Get another beer. I mean, no, but really, like, I fight for what I believe in.
The Department of Justice included this video in its case against Sandlin. The DOJ says it's from a live stream he did just minutes before marching on the Capitol.
Freedom is always paid for with blood, And tyranny always masquerades itself as safety and security. Peace and love. Thanks, guys.
As Sandlin, DeGrave, and Colt started making their way to the Capitol building, U.S. Capitol Police Sergeant Aquilino Gonell was bracing for a fight.
I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, about 2 hours away from the border of Haiti. I came here to the United States when I was 12 years old.
So you became an American citizen while in the Army?
Yes, and then several months later I was deployed to Iraq. My time in Iraq doesn't compare to everything that happened here on January 6th.
Sergeant Gonell said things began to get out of control around 2 in the afternoon.
Once the first call happened that they requested assistance on the West Front, we ran fully equipped with all the civil disturbance unit gear on to help the officers who were already fighting the mob. And from the moment I put my foot down on the last step, we were fighting them also.
You're an American! Our people died for this!
There was no time to coordinate. There was no time to devise anything because we were just trying to help out the officers who were getting beat up already. And then we began to get beat up ourselves. It was not until later on that Metropolitan Police came to assist us.
This body-worn camera video is from one of the first DC police units to respond to the U.S. Capitol.
Camera on.
The riot gear already on. Still, they had no idea what they were about to walk into.
Oh, it was horrible.
Oh, my eyes!
I got hit with flagpoles. I got sprayed with so many things. People were throwing anything they could get their hands on it. The metal barriers, they were ripping them apart to take those pieces and using as projectile because they didn't have nothing else.
Police had no other option except retreat. Shortly after 2 p.m., the scene at the U.S. Capitol became an all-out riot. It was soon clear officers were overwhelmed by a mob so misguided, some of them did not even know which national landmark they were storming.
This is me touching the White House.
Meet Doug Jensen.
This is why we're here. House, just so you know.
A 41-year-old who traveled to D.C. from Des Moines, Iowa for Donald Trump's Stop the Steal protest.
Storm the White House! That's what we do!
The Department of Justice says Jensen might have been confused about where he was, but not what he came to do. Court documents alleging Jensen, a self-proclaimed digital soldier for the internet conspiracy group QAnon, was in Washington to carry out a Q-driven mission to stop Democratic Party leaders by halting the certification of the electoral votes of President Joe Biden's victory. Prosecutors say Jensen was right there with the first group of rioters to enter the Capitol building about 2:20 p.m. Then storming the halls of the Capitol itself, looking for the Senate floor. That's when U.S. Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman emerged to stop their advance.
Go!
The DOJ said it was Jensen leading the chase of Officer Goodman up those stairs, looking for senators, but they never found them, in large part because of the quick action of Officer Goodman, who led the group of rioters away from the Senate chamber, where lawmakers were still evacuating to safety.
He's one person, we're thousands.
Goodman later awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for his bravery. 500 yards away in the Rayburn House office building, Sharon Nichols was safely back in her office.
The hard part for me was that the rest of my office was teleworking that day, so I was alone in my office. I called my mom and I called my sister and said, listen, turn on the news just so that you know what's happening, but I'm okay. I'm locked inside.
They must have just been terrified.
Yeah, I think they were scared.
Her only protection? A deadbolt on the door.
I locked it and turned the lights out. Tried to balance between having the TV up high enough that I could hear what was going on or what the latest information was, but have it turned down low enough that nobody could hear it from outside because I didn't want to draw attention. And so if I muted the TV, I could hear people walking. I was never sure if they were police officers or other staff or the mob. I was hiding. Being in a place like this, you think you're protected, but then it had suddenly become very clear that we weren't prepared for whatever was happening.
Hey, I got an injury coming through.
A battalion of MPD and Capitol police officers were regrouping in the bowels of the Capitol building, ready to make one final stand. They were led by DC Police Commander Ramey Kyle.
Come on, U.S. Capitol today. Do you hear me? Who's to the U.S. Capitol? You're not getting in this building. Let's go.
On the front lines of that battle to hold the tunnel to the west terrace of the U.S. Capitol, Sergeant Aquilino Gonell.
When I started feeling like I was losing air, I came to a conclusion at that point, like, okay, this could be my last. This is how I'm going to die, defending the Capitol. And I was prepared for that.
Sir, let go of the door and leave.
Once again, a police body cam captured the grisly images. That bloody hand belongs to Sergeant Gonell,
Back up.
still holding tight to that distinctive circular shield.
Lock them together like this. You know how to lock them together?
Sensing Sergeant Gonell was in trouble, needing help, another officer from a different department fought his way to the front lines to take Gonell's spot, face to face with rioters. It was DC police officer Mike Fanone.
No, I mean, like, my memories of that day are vivid.
Sergeant Gonell tells us he still feels guilty about what happened to Officer Fanone next.
Really, up until I lost consciousness, you know, it plays out in my mind like very clearly.
This cell phone video taken by rioters is included by the Department of Justice in its case against Albuquerque Cosper Head, the man wearing that camouflage face covering. Head is one of 3 men charged in the brutal assault of Officer Fanone. You can see the moment the MPD veteran, right there in the corner of your screen, is pulled into the violent, bloodthirsty mob.
Like, I can see that day like I'm living it as we speak.
This is what the terrifying scene looked like from Officer Fanone's body cam video. You can hear the father of 3 young girls pleading for his life. Fanone is beaten, tased, and nearly killed by rioters before a small handful in the crowd intervene
Lift him up.
and hand his limp body back to his fellow officers.
Mike, stay in there, buddy. Mike, it's Jimmy. I'm here.
As the riot at the U.S. Capitol spiraled out of control, President Trump ignored calls to send in the National Guard or even to issue his own public appeal for calm to his supporters, who were now finding new ways inside the Capitol building. In fact, 3 of those supporters were about to find their way from the lunch special at a local restaurant to the hallowed halls of the U.S. Senate. While the war to defend the West Terrace raged on, rioters found less resistance at another Capitol entrance. This is closed-circuit security camera video from inside the Capitol. 2 different camera angles, one on that door, one on the corridor it leads to, shows overwhelmed U.S. Capitol Police were no match for crowds trying to illegally enter the building. The video seems to show officers arguing with rioters, trying to push them back, before eventually standing aside and allowing the mob to just stream in. It was then that Ronnie Sandlin, Nate DeGrave, and Josiah Colt, fresh off their pre-riot lunch, found their way inside the Capitol building.
I don't know what to say. Let's go, bro. I'm tired, bro. Let's go.
The ultimate destination now in their sights.
Get to the Senate, bro. Let's get to the Senate, bro. The Senate, where they're meeting. No looking back now, boys.
By now, it was clear this was no tourist visit, but that didn't stop Colt from a quick stop at the visitors' water fountain.
Yo, it's time for a drink of water.
And at 2:42 p.m., the Department of Justice says the 3 guys who were live streaming conspiracy theories over beers a couple hours earlier were among the first to arrive at the Senate door. 2 lone U.S. Capitol Police officers, the last guardians of that entrance, quickly realizing resistance was futile but willing to fight anyway. Then the moment history was rewritten. The United States Senate is breached.
Yeah!
Invaded by its own citizens.
Yo, it's empty. We did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. This is our house. America. This is for America.
Our
This is
house
for the
now!
people.
Our house
This
now!
is for freedom.
Bro, you just made history, bro. Yo, take laptops, paperwork, take everything.
As DeGrave celebrates with Colt and Sandlin, others join the party.
They went under. They all left. They're cowards. Where'd you go?
Capitol Police had already evacuated the senators, including Mitt Romney, seen running for the exit in this security cam video. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Capitol building, another life and death battle was being waged. A small platoon of officers were trying to block the door to the House Speaker's lobby, where elected officials were still rushing to safety.
Looks like we have patriots trying to break the glass in the Speaker's lobby.
What happens next plays out in 2 different videos taken by Capitol riot defendants.
We got police coming up. The police are evacuating the other house.
There's a gun! There's a gun! There's a gun!
14-year Air Force veteran Ashley Babbitt, who had delved into far-right politics and QAnon after leaving active service, was shot in the shoulder by U.S. Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd as Babbitt tried to climb through a broken-out window leading to the House chamber.
We can't save her! Get the back! We can't save her! Space! Give us space right now!
We cannot get enough people to move for the police to get her out the building. She's bleeding out on the floor.
She would later be pronounced dead at the hospital. As news spread a rioter had been shot, those bent on violence seemed emboldened. It was not long after the war at the West Terrace reached a new level of hell. What could be the most violent 90 seconds in the entire Capitol riot starts when this guy in that University of Michigan sweatshirt, Justin Jersey, charges an officer trying to rip away their baton. The small group of police brutalized with anything the mob could find: flagpoles, sticks, projectiles launched in the air like incoming missiles. The DOJ says this is former CrossFit instructor Jack Wade Witten from Georgia beating police with a crutch, then stomping on an officer as that officer cries out for help. Then the DOJ says Witten pulls that officer face down into the crowd.
Hey, we got an officer down there!
That officer forced to crawl to save himself.
I need through.
Then a Pennsylvania man identified by the DOJ as former Marine Michael Lopatix Sr. joins the assault, followed by a deputy sheriff from Tennessee, Ronald Maccabee. Maccabee would later be seen in the police body cam standing over the lifeless body of rioter Roseanne Boylan.
I need compressions!
The D.C. Medical Examiner's Office ultimately found Boylan died from a drug overdose. She and Babbitt among 5 people who lost their lives amid the riot. The 3 others, including U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, all died from natural causes, according to autopsies. As for this savage assault on police, to date, at least 8 different people face felony charges. It would be hours into the riot here at the U.S. Capitol before then-President Donald Trump finally tweeted out a video to his supporters asking them to go home, even as he repeated false claims about a stolen election. Despite the lack of help from the commander-in-chief, the beleaguered men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police Department and the D.C. Police Department had regained some control over the scene. But Capitol Hill staff members remained hunkered down, hiding, not knowing if they were safe. It was nightfall before police pushed the remaining rioters back, many of them still denying the reality of the day.
We're here to make a statement. We're not here to be violent with police.
After hours of delays by the White House, the D.C. National Guard had been activated.
Officers with machine guns, there were tanks.
For Sharon Nichols, 7 frightening hours alone and under lockdown were over. She got the all clear to go home.
I knew I was after curfew, so I kept my badge on or displayed so that people could see that I wasn't causing trouble. I was just trying to go home. The first thing I did was, I tweeted that I got home, I'm safe. I called my family. Going to sleep that night was tough because of all the adrenaline of the day, but then also it's sinking in and realizing that it'll have consequences for years, that people died that day. And I cried several times, and then you try to process it, and I was talking to friends and was thinking about the repercussions down the road, how many years we'd be talking about this, what they can do in the future to prevent it from happening again.
And I was crying like I never cried before.
After a 22-hour day, Sergeant Aquilino Gonell made it back to his family about 4 a.m. His wife Monica right there waiting for him.
I put the blanket over myself and gave her a big hug for 20 minutes. I couldn't believe that my fellow citizen attacked us. I couldn't believe that they attacked the police. I couldn't believe that in America this was happening.
The emotional scars came with physical ones, too. But there are good days, like the moment Sergeant Gonell walked on his own after surgery to remove metal plates and screws in his foot from injuries caused by rioters.
You can do it.
That's his 10-year-old son Emmanuel, cheering Dad on every step of the way.
Sin las muletas, pero sí con el pie.
And I told him people will read about what I did and the other officers did. And I told him you should be proud because I did what I had to do to keep the system that we have in place. When I said that to him, he was like, well, if that ever comes in the history books and I'm studying it or they bring it up in class, then I'm gonna say, well, that's my dad, and I'm proud of him. That felt good. That felt good.
rioters called me traitor, a disgrace, and shouted that I, an Army veteran and a police officer, should be executed.
My own fire.